Welcoming you all. So today we are going to understand Article 13 of Indian Constitution, which falls under Part 3 of Indian Constitution in a simple manner possible. So things related to Article 13, here as you can see I have written a simple language or simple sentence again. Article 13 lives in byline number 3. So that's how we can link it where Article 13 lives, which is in Part 3 of Indian Constitution. So before we get into what is the other provisions or other clauses in Article 13, we need to remember some really important points which I have listed here like this. So the first thing that we need to remember, that is Constitution of India came into force on 26 January 1950. Again, this is the very important date which we need to remember in order to understand everything related to Article 13, because it has a very significant or very important role that plays relating to Article 30. So this date we cannot skip at any cost. Next we have 13 deals with pre and post constitutional law. So this is the another important point that we need to remember what Article 13 deals with. So Article 13 basically deals with the laws which is pre and post constitutional. Then again Article 13 has 4 points or clauses or principles. So again, under Article 13, we have 4 clauses in total. So in today's video, I am going to explain the first 2 clauses of Article 13 and later we will proceed towards understanding the other provisions or clauses as well. Again, we can say that Article 13 is the protector of fundamental rights. So when Article 13 is here, nobody can cause any harm to fundamental rights, which is given to the citizens and some of them are given to the non-citizens as well. So these are the important 4 points that helps us in remembering Article 13 in details. So let's move into the kind of language that the Barak has used in order to explain what is Article 13. So Article 13 basically says laws inconsistent with derogation of the fundamental rights. So again, fundamental right plays a very important role in Article 13. So what we just said that Article 13 deals with pre and post constitutional laws. So here this is the clause 1 and this is the clause 2. So first we will understand the language that has been used in the barrack and then we will try to decode it. What are the main features or what are the key points that we need to remember in order to understand Article 13? We don't need to remember all these things, or it is not possible for us to remember all these things in a whole. So we will decode it. First we will read what is in Article 13. So first clause 1 says all laws in force in the territory of India immediately before the commencement of this constitution, insofar as they are inconsistent with the provisions of this part, shall the extent of such inconsistency is void. So here we need to remember the date that I have just mentioned, that is 26 January 1915, when we have adopted the Constitution of India, and from that day the Constitution of India came into force. So here the date will help us in remembering what is in clause 1. So what it says that uh, any laws in force immediately before the commencement of the constitution. So we got our very constitution on 1950. So what about the earlier laws that we got by the Britishers? We cannot repeal all of them together, otherwise that will create a kind of havoc in the society. So the clause 1 says that any part or any provision which will not respect our fundamental rights that is given to us by the constitution itself will be void and will not be in effect after the commencement of the constitution. It is 26 January 1950. So the first clause deals with pre-constitutional law which was made by the Britishers before the commencement of the constitution. So this part is all about the pre-constitutional laws. So here we need to remember only some part of it. Before the commencement of this constitution, we void. So the laws which were there before the commencement of the constitution, if they are inconsistent with fundamental right, if they are not respecting our fundamental rights, if they are creating some problems where which is affecting us to enjoy our fundamental rights, will be declared as void. So this is relating to the pre-constitutional laws. Again, regarding to this, we have many case laws which we will discuss later. So let's come to the clause 2 of article 13. It says, the state shall not make any law which takes away or abridges the rights conferred by this part, and any law made in contravention of this clause shall, to the extent of the contravention it be void. So fundamental rights is protected here under the article 13. So again it says that the state shall not make any law. So the state, which is a powerful body, cannot make any law which will take away or tries to take away our fundamental rights, and they will be declared as void. So before 1950, the laws that were inconsistent with fundamental rights will be declared as void. And after the year of 1950, or after the commencement of the Constitution of India, it is strictly prohibited that state cannot make any laws which will contravention of this clause shall, to the extent of the contravention, be void. So under this part, the shall, if the state is prohibited to make any particular law which will be infringing our fundamental rights. So this is all about Article 13 and Clause 1 and Clause 2. So Clause 1 basically deals with the pre-constitutional laws made by the Britishers, and Part 2, or the Clause 2, says that the state is prohibited in making any kind of law which will be derogatory to fundamental rights and which will kind of contravene us in enjoying the fundamental rights. So these two clauses deals with the fundamental rights, or part 3 of the Indian Constitution. So this is the kind of language the Barak used, which I have tried to explain it in a simple language. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching the video.